So that shiny new game just came out, Avowed, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Well, let's take a look at the game first and first impressions. Keep in mind this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played the game for about 5.5 hours, so I'll show some footage of the game, I'll describing it, and giving a few thoughts on it. First, there's a scene at the very beginning of the game, and I'll describe it. The game takes place in Aora, and when the people there die, they are reborn through reincarnation. So you'll hear multiple times in the game about past lives or future lives. Your character comes from the Adiran Empire, and their god is Wodaka, the burned queen. However, Wodaka has turned her gaze from them, and their empire has suffered. When your character was born as a godlike, which is a race, like humans are a race. Godlikes are touched by a god in the womb, which gives them some sort of facial abnormality, and makes them very recognizable. Your character grew up as an outsider because of this, but the king saw potential in you and opportunity. The king names you his envoy to secure the kingdom's future, and he sends you to the living lands. After that scene, you can now customize your character, of which there's a good amount of customization that you can do. It's nothing crazy in depth though. You can change your godlike features as well, which is like different kinds of coral on your face. Also, it says that NPCs will react to and comment on your godlike features. There is an option to disable the godlike feature, but even if you disable it, people will still react as if it was there. So I said screw it, if people are going to react to it regardless, I might as well have one on my face so it's not weird. At the end of customizing, you can select your background, and there's 5 options. All it does is give you a few unique dialogue options and changes your starting weapon. Regardless of what background you actually pick, you can still use all weapons and abilities. Right after that, you can rearrange your attribute points, and I left mine how they were, other than changing a single one. Then there's another scene with the king, and he wants you to go to the living lands to find and remove the corruption that's spreading there, or the empire could be in danger next. While on a ship to go to the living lands, your ship is fired upon and is sunk. You wake up on the shore of an island, which is where an Adiran fort is located. This is now where you can walk around for the first time. Before I go on, let's talk about performance real quick. With a 4070 Ti, I played on 1440p max settings, ray tracing on, DLSS on quality, and frame gen on. Visually, the game looks quite good. The game ran good for me. I was usually around 95 to 110 FPS. Also, I had no stuttering or glitches. The game just worked good. Oh, and I saw my VRAM usage stay right around 8 gigabytes. Now back to the game. One of the first things I did was look at the menus. You do have an inventory where all of your weapons, armor, food, and potions, and everything else will go. And there is a weight limit too. You also have a main hand and offhand, as well as 2 weapon sets. So I could have a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, or both hands on a big hammer. Weapons in this game are pretty interesting. I've seen swords, spears, axes, hammers, wands, grimoires, shields, bows, guns, and daggers. I think that's about all I've seen so far. Then there's the ability tree, and within that, there's 4 categories. When you rank up, you can choose any category that you want, and then upgrade in that category. For example, I bought a fighter ability that charges at the enemy, and also I bought a ranger ability that reduces the stamina cost of dodging by 25%. Also, when you rank up, you can add an attribute point in the character tab, like more stamina or damage or health. Journal is your quests, documents that you find, and tutorials. And the map is of course just the map. I actually never really used the map. I looked at it once during the very beginning of the game, and then I just didn't need it again. There is teleporting that you can do via the map, I believe, but I never did that. I just wanted to walk around and explore. Interestingly, the first person that you talk to is a blue-furred person on the beach. In each conversation that you have, you'll always be given multiple answers that you could go with. Honestly, dialogue can be a little bit tedious, simply because there's a lot of it, and you'll be making a lot of dialogue choices along the way. The first weapon I got was a spear. I think that's because of my class. You can defend and use a heavy and light attack, and also dodge. Most enemies are pretty simple to fight. It's usually just a mix of melee and ranged enemies, but what's hard is that they usually have a good amount of health and attack you with multiple enemies at once. I'd say my favorite weapon was by far the wand. I just loved using that thing. It reminded me so much of playing Hogwarts Legacy. Almost all weapons use your stamina bar to attack, but so does dodging and blocking. You'll need to be careful with that. Grimoires that you find or buy, and abilities that you upgrade both use essence, which is the purple bar under your red health bar. You can get more by taking an essence potion or by defeating enemies. There's throwables too, like little bombs and other things that you can find or purchase. Those were kind of useful too. As for exploring, you should do that. You'll find food, money, weapons, armor, and crafting/upgrade materials. There's always chests or packs just lying around or hidden that always have goodies inside. I looked around quite often and always found something, so you should definitely just explore. There is also an absolute crap ton of notes, papers, and books that can be found in this game. I found so many I just started to open and close them immediately. Ain't no one got time for that. If you love to read in-game papers though, then this game has you covered for sure. As for the soldiers on the island that your boat crashed on, they were infected with that corruption. They fought and killed killed each other and also shot the boat down with cannons. I do get off the island and make it to the living lands, and the first place that you go to is the city Paradise. But technically it's a small town on the shore, and the Paradise city proper is actually a bit off to the side. So I'm not sure if this coastal town is still considered Paradise or not. This place on the coast is actually a fairly large area though. I spent around an hour just looking around the place and some of the surrounding area, and I still didn't even look at everything. There are merchants that you can buy and sell items at too. They're at the docks area, but there's more merchants other places in the game too. You immediately get a new companion when you first arrive at the docks, and his name is Kai. He's a big blue fish boy, or whatever his race is, but he looks fishy in a literal way. I'm not saying that he looks sketchy. When you have a companion, they will automatically fight on their own, but you can also order them to use their abilities. And yes, you can also upgrade their abilities too. Kai's default ones is using a gun to shoot someone up close and setting fire to obstacles like brambles or spider webs. Your companions have their own health bar, and when they die, they'll just kneel where they are. You'll have to go up to them to revive them or just finish the battle. If you finish the battle while they're down, they're just gonna get up and be revived. While playing this game, I kept coming across side missions to do, and I got a little sidetracked. I also decided to do a side quest first, which was going to someone's cabin, but the outcome of that was kinda odd. I began doing the main mission at this point, and most enemies that I've seen so far are the same weird creature, but there are a few others that I've come across too, like spiders and bears and skeletons and some kind of weird ghost thing. I did fight humans here and there as well, like some grave robbers I came across. I actually spared one of them. He wasn't human though, but he did seem a little dim-witted. I felt bad for him, honestly.
I should have listened to Ma. I swear, I never wanted to be a looter. The man's gotta eat.
You fucking coward. I should have expected this from you.
Let me go, and I'll never disturb a gravesite again. I swear to all the gods.
You little shit!
All right, thank you. Ma would thank you too.
You know this was your last chance, Tiny. If I ever see you again.
Here we go!
There's a little bit of verticality in this game. You can actually climb up onto roofs pretty often. One interesting thing that you can do is make camp at Agdra waypoints, which is like big green crystals. Every time that I've done that, it's always nighttime for some reason. Also in the camp, it's several things that you can do. First of all, you can talk to all of your companions, and when I got off the game, I had two companions, Kai and then a short fellow named Marius. Here you can change their outfits for them if you have them. You can put items in your stash, and if you buy the premium edition of this game, your extra items will be here in the camp in the stash. They're actually pretty good items. Also in the camp, you can upgrade your weapons and armor. There's 5 tiers to that: common, fine, exceptional, superb, and legendary. And then there's 3 upgrades within each tier. I myself only got to upgrade 3 on the common quality. Then there's enchanting, which can only be done to unique weapons. I've picked up several unique weapons, but I've never got around to actually trying to enchant them. I had this sick unique dagger that had flames on it, and that was quite good as it was. There was then a spot to put Wodaka totems, and it seems like you need several there at once to even use whatever that is. I did collect a few totems, but I couldn't place them down there. I assume you'll need to collect them all before you can even place them down. And that's all the things that you can do in the camp. This whole time, my character was getting dreams and visions of an entity speaking to him. And during this main mission is when you can actually talk to this entity for the first time. Once you touch the Agdra during the main mission, you can speak to this entity. This thing is weird to talk to. It seems to not really know what it even is. It was in an endless sleep, and then it felt your presence and waited for you. It offered you the power to heal and be healed, but you'll have to do a favor in return. There was a yes or no option, and I selected yes. I genuinely cannot decide if this thing is nice or malicious, but throughout the game, it seems to have fractured memories, and it watches you pretty closely. It also seems to be learning from you and the decisions that you make. Hopefully the favor that it asks in the future is a good one, and I made the right choice of accepting its help. After fighting a lot of creatures and people, I eventually made it back to the city, and I went to a rundown area named Shantytown. I did a side quest here. This guy had several pieces stolen from him from some kind of bird, and I went around on the rooftops of Shantytown finding them for him. I finally entered the city of actual Paradise, and the inside is fairly large. It's split up into a couple different areas in the city that require going through a big door and a loading screen. Once you go in for the first time though, your character is hit by an arrow that has poison on it and dies. But that weird entity that's been in your head brings you back to life. I then spent a lot of time running back and forth through the city doing some quests, talking to people, talking to merchants, but eventually I did get around to finding the assassin that killed my character. But before that, there was a cool scene with someone that's a watcher. Watchers are people that do soul stuff. She looked at my character's soul and noticed that it wasn't claimed by any of the gods, despite my character still being godlike. She said there was a thorn in my character's soul and that the soul grew around it. Whether a god did that or not, who knows, but it's for sure that a god did touch my character's soul at one point. Now back to the assassin. When I reached him, I was offered a choice. I could kill him or I could spare him. After listening to him speak, I spared him and I let him go. I actually have a good feeling about him. Also, after I made that choice, the entity in my character's head said they learn. I'm not sure if they're learning from me and my actions, and that will determine how they themselves act, or if they're just learning about me in general. I hope that if I act good and spare people, then that entity will also act good and I'll have a good ending. But that's just a theory right now. After talking to the assassin, I left the area that I was in, which required a loading screen at a door, but to my surprise, the loading screen just never loaded. That was the first and only issue that I've had in this game. I waited for 5 minutes and then I just exited the game and got back on, and the loading animation went just fine. This game has really good graphics, and it has really fun gameplay too. Even though the combat is more on the simple side, it's still really fun to me. The story, like the overall story of the corruption, this entity, and your own character, is very interesting. The smaller side quests and stuff like that isn't as interesting, but they're just fine. One weird thing that I did notice were the NPCs. Their character models and expressions aren't the best. It's kind of weird, honestly. I think that the non-human NPCs have more realistic looking faces and expressions than the humans do. The humans seem lower quality on the face and either underexpressed or overexpressed. It's kind of weird and stiff. I don't know. It's not a huge deal though. Also, if you're curious, after 5 hours I reached level 6. All in all, this game is really good. I find it fun to play and the overall look to this game is just pleasing. Though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.